The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Good morning and welcome to the Personal Safety Show. My name is Marcus Melnick of Firearm Mentor, and I am your host. And I'm very, very excited today because it's Memorial Day weekend, and Memorial Day weekend, I understand that meteorologically, summer doesn't start for another 2 to 3 weeks, but I will call it starting now because I just love being outdoors. Summertime and outdoors brings a higher risk to all of us because of summertime activities. And this show is going to discuss some of the risks that in the activities that we perform over the summer. And in the second half of the show, we're going to interview Mitchell Dicker from Clowning Around Celebration Authority, which is an entertainment company, and they provide rides and entertainment, and he's going to be talking about safety at those types of events. In his own words, Mitchell has said,
"I party for a living."
Summer should be a time of fun and relaxation for families and not a season of injuries or stress. Injuries do peak as temperatures rise and people start participating in outdoor activities. I did a little bit of research, and there's something called the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission's National Electronic Injury Surveillance System. Try saying that 3 times. They talk about summertime products and how many emergency room visits these result in. For example, trampolines for the ages of 2 and under, there are over 10,000 ER visits. Ages 3 to 10, that goes up to 61,000, and ages 11 to 17, there are about 60,000 plus emergency room visits a year. Playground equipment for kids 2 and under, there were 5,300 ER visits in a year. Bicycles resulted in 54,000 ER visits, skateboards 38,000, swings and swing sets 4,500, monkey bars or other playground equipment 45,000 emergency room visits, swimming pools 3,400 visits for ages 2 and under, 33,000 visits for ages 3 to 10. Bicycles resulted in 3,300 ER visits. Porches, balconies, 3,100. Grills resulted in 919 emergency room visits for 2 and under. And I'm going to guess that is because they touched the grill that is hot. Fishing activity, up 5,400 ER visits a year. Lawnmowers, 2,000 visits a year. There are dangerous summertime products for adults. Bicycles resulted in 237,000 plus visits. Porches, balconies, openings resulted in 83,000 visits to the ER per year. Lawnmowers, 64,000. Skateboards, 57,000. What adult is on a skateboard these days? Fishing activity, up 40,000 visits to the emergency room. Greenhouses, gardening tools, 27,000 visits to the emergency room. Lawn trimmers, hedge cutters, edgers, 20,000 ER visits. Swimming pools, almost 20,000. Adults on trampolines, 16,000. And garden hoses, nozzles, or sprinklers, 12,000 ER visits. So summertime has a lot of emergency room visits. So let's talk about summertime safety for children. Trampolines require proper supervision, maintenance, and well-enforced rules. They can be a safe summer activity, but ensure at the beginning of the season and a couple times throughout the season that the bolts and springs are correctly in position before jumping, and make sure that it is on level ground. We also have to monitor children so they're not jumping too high or flipping upside down in guards or nets to prevent injuries. With playground equipment, want to make sure it doesn't have any exposed nails, bolts, or other damage. So when I was a kid, they were all wood, you'd get slivers. Now they're a plastic composite. When your kid plays on the playground equipment, supervise them. You're going to see this as a theme. Kids get injured when they are not supervised. If they are biking or anything on wheels, skateboarding, rollerblading, etc., scooter, segways, make sure that protective gear is worn, including a helmet. If you're riding as a family, ensure that your child rides behind you and definitely teach them the rules of the road. When I worked for a joint police and fire department, we did have a bicyclist injury. He fell off and smacked his head on something that was yellow. He was going so fast that the yellow paint transferred to his forehead. He was not wearing a helmet, was severely injured. When you're fishing with your kids, and I love fishing, I might be going on a charter in the near future. Children should wear sunglasses with UV protection. Barbless hooks that are easier to remove from fish should be used. And make sure children wear life vests or other flotation devices when fishing. You definitely have to supervise children at all times, especially when they're casting fishing lines. One of my fears is that someone's not going to know what they're doing and they're going to cast a fishing line and that fishing hook is going to go in my eyelid. That's an irrational fear, but I have it. Also, wear shoes, closed-toed shoes, not sandals. You get a hook in your foot because there's a sandal there, it's going to hurt and it's going to be difficult to remove and may necessitate an emergency room visit. Sometimes hooks get stuck on docks, on piers, and you don't want to be stepping on them with your flip-flop. Like Jimmy Buffett said, he stepped on a pop-top and blew out his flip-flop. We don't want to do that, especially when it's going to result in an injury. Fireworks. Fireworks are dangerous. As you guys know, my company is Firearm Mentor. I have worked with gunpowder my whole life. You'll never see me working with gunpowder with a cigar hanging out of my mouth. That's just silly. Or pumping gas with a cigar hanging out of my mouth, for that matter. Children should not be allowed to play with or ignite fireworks. If kids are old enough to use sparklers, make sure they hold them away from the hair and clothing to avoid accidental burns. If you're wearing a type of shirt that is moisture wicking or polyester and a spark hits that shirt, it will melt it to your skin. Wear cotton. When I worked for this police department, I actually took a flare to one of those shirts and it shrunk and melted all over. Obviously, nobody was wearing it at the time. And we all want to make sure the fireworks aren't pointed or thrown at other people. The safest way to enjoy fireworks is go to a public professional fireworks show. Stay at least 500 feet away. Most states outlaw fireworks. It's best to leave it to the trained professionals. Look, let's face it. Even though I said don't light fireworks, I know there's going to be listeners that are going to light fireworks. I'm going to give you some safety tips and tell you a story about one of my cousins. Some safety tips. Light fireworks away from buildings and trees. Never give the firework to a small child. Never throw or point a firework like a bottle rocket at people, animals, vehicle structures, flammable materials. Follow the instructions on the pack. Be sure that spectators, including pets, are well back. Supply of water or fire extinguisher should be available. If you are experiencing a drought in your area, don't do the fireworks. It's so easy for a stray spark to ignite dry grass or leaves on fire, and it could lead to a wildfire. Eye protection, very, very important. Even if you're playing Nerf guns, you should be wearing eye protection. Light only one firework at a time. Store fireworks in a cool, dry place away from children and pets, and never attempt to relight a dud. So let me tell you about my cousin Zach from Seminole County, Florida. He's a teenager. He's going to be graduating from high school, and New Year's he got some fireworks with his friends. He lit a firework in Lake Mary, Florida at midnight to celebrate New Year's, and he lit it, put it on the ground. It did not go off. So he picked up the firework to relight it, but what he didn't realize, it was lit and it exploded in his hand. First, he felt the burning sensation and he looked down at his hand, right hand, and he's right-handed. His thumb was hanging by a tendon and he almost passed out. Tons of blood was there. One of the friends called 911. Another ran and got paper towels. On the ambulance ride to the Orlando Regional Medical Center, Zach thought his thumb was the only digit that was impacted. Because a lot of times when someone is injured or significantly injured, they don't know that they're injured because cortisol and adrenaline and a whole cocktail of other hormones release into the bloodstream and pain isn't always felt immediately. The medics were examining him at the hospital and they determined that his index and middle fingers would have to be amputated as well because they were mangled. Since the first of the year, he's been relearning how to do things, simple things that we all take for granted, like eating, writing. He loves basketball. He's trying to learn how to shoot baskets with his left hand. The whole idea is let fireworks be someone else's job. Sure, you can enjoy them, but it's very, very dangerous. Moving on to other types of events and activities and items in the summer that we use. Water slides are a lot of fun. Water safety is paramount. We need to follow the rules and are included instructions if you're putting a water slide or slip and slide in your yard. Most injuries occur because of a combination of high speed and slippery surfaces. So let me tell you a story about me. I have another set of, actually it's the same set of cousins who on July 4th, they create a homemade slip and slide in Grandma's backyard. And Grandma's backyard has a ginormous hill, and they get painting tarps, and they line them up so it goes down the hill in like a chute. At the bottom of the hill, there's a little ramp, and you get launched into an inflatable swimming pool. Here I am, big fat Marcus, because at the time I was a lot heavier. I'm going to do it. And they lubed up the little chute with dishwasher detergent, so it was super slippery. So I take a run, I fly, you can imagine like the Superman fly, I land on my stomach, I knock the wind out of myself, I'm sliding down, the dog is actually chasing me next to the slide. I hit the ramp at the bottom, I fly up, but my swim trunks did not. They flew down around my ankles. And luckily, the only person videoing this was on my own personal phone, so I know it's not going to get out there, at least as a video. It's a funny story. And that's when I realized I might be a little too old for a slip and slide. Now I'm 50, and I definitely won't do it because I don't want my pants to fall down. You saw in the background of the video, there were about 100 people because all the neighbors and relatives were there dying. One guy fell on the floor. He was laughing so hard because it was hilarious. It was funny. And luckily I didn't get injured, but that's a negative consequence of thinking I'm too young. Grills and fire pits, regardless of the fuel type, grills and fire pits should be at least 10 feet away from your home. I've seen grills melt siding, particularly vinyl siding, not really aluminum siding because it doesn't get that hot to melt aluminum. But it can damage siding. Open flames, again, should never be left unattended. Ensure that you have some sort of hose, fire extinguisher, anything you're dealing with heat. Lawnmowers. Children under 5 should be indoors when someone is mowing the grass because they might unexpectedly run into the mower's path. Although it's great to have children help out with chores, children under 12 should not be using a lawnmower. So let's go back to water safety. Pool tips. Taking a dip is awesome. That's one of my favorite summer activities, but pools can be dangerous, especially for children. Pools, in ground, above ground, doesn't matter, cause about 60,000 children ER visits a year, and for both children and adults. And kids are 36% more likely to be injured by a swimming pool than adults, according to the NEISS, which was that mouthful I said at the beginning, according to their data, and results can be tragic. Drowning is the top cause of death for children between the ages of 1 and 4. For kids 14 and younger, drowning is the number 2 cause of death behind car crashes reported by the CDC. Non-fatal pool incidents can cause long-term damage, particularly brain damage and a lack of oxygen. 40% of people treated for drowning in emergency departments need to be hospitalized or require further care, compared to 8% for all other accidental injuries. So drowning is only one of the ways someone can be infected by a pool. Different types of pools and pool products can cause other injuries. And some of the culprits are in-ground pools bordered by slippery cement. Don't run, walk. Make sure you have grip on the bottom of your footwear. If you go to a summer pool party, make sure you follow the rules. Swimming pool equipment can be dangerous. An electric cleaning mechanism, a drain. I have taught my kids, I was taught this, that a lot of times there's a drain in the deep end of the pool. Never touch the drain. Some poor kid can go down 5 feet, get his finger stuck in the drain, and drown. Do not touch drains that are underwater, especially with your fingers or your toes. It could result in disaster. When I was a kid, when we didn't have any money, we would throw rocks in the pool and dive for them. When we had a little money, very little money, it was pennies. We would go and dive, but if it was near the vent, it's lost. Other equipment, ladders might come loose. Everyone should use caution when entering or exiting on a ladder. Diving boards can be very dangerous. We used to go to the public pools back in Skokie, and my sister was a lot more athletic than I was, still is, and she went on the diving board and she would do a flip off the diving board into the deep end, and it was cute. It was fun to watch. And one day she jumped on the diving board in the air above the diving board, did a flip, her back landed on the diving board, and she fell into the water. I was primed to jump in, so was the lifeguard, but she surfaced and swam to the side. Turns out she bruised her kidneys. She was okay, but at the same time, you don't want anyone to get hurt. We don't even think about this, but pool chemicals, or lack thereof, could be dangerous. If someone doesn't treat their pool or hot tub with appropriate chemicals, It could be a breeding ground for bacteria, and while that's not an injury, illness can follow. Pool chemicals are actually the best way to ensure that the water stays clean and free of bacteria and other harmful substances like algae, that type. But they do pose their own health risks. Water can be too acidic to the eyes, the skin, nose irritation, so don't swallow it. Test the water in your pool regularly, following instructions from the manufacturer. And sometimes we have inflatable and rubber pools that are a popular budget option for people in their backyards. They still could be drowning hazards, so be sure your portable pool is inaccessible to children, maybe have a cover on it, and because they're small, they are prone to bacteria and algae growth if not cared for. Above ground pools contribute to 18% of fatalities in children 15 and under. Ensuring these pools have safety ladders that lock will prevent children and others from entering the pool. Hot tubs, home spas have caused more than 7,000 annual emergency room visits. Cover your hot tub when it's not in use. Don't use it while consuming alcohol or nowadays cannabis, and don't stay in longer than 45 minutes. Pregnant women should consult their physicians before they enter the pool. And if they can't enter the pool because they're pregnant, they can still put their little toes in. They can still put their feet in. Swim lessons for children are also a good idea. I learned how to swim in a pool in Michigan with my father dunking me screaming bloody murder, but now today I'm like a fish. If children are in the pool to have fun, have them use floating devices or stay in shallow waters. A lot of parents worry about keeping their children safe, but they should also consider how to avoid accidents themselves, especially in warmer months. Cycling injuries are on the rise. Cycling is very popular. According to a University of California study, hospital visits from biking injuries more than doubled between 1998 and 2013. Researchers also found the location of bike incidents was increasingly on city streets, rising from 40% of accidents to 65%, particularly when they involve motor vehicles. Follow the rules of the road. Do not ride abreast. Do not ride side by side. I can't stand this. I can't stand it when you've got a biking club that are taking up an entire lane when the rules of the road and the law clearly state you should be single file unless passing. On my way into roll call in the morning, I would see the same groups of bicyclists, 3, 4, 5 abreast, blocking the entire road. So I talked to the midnight shift and they started to get stopped. And now when they got into town, they would adjust and go single file so other people could get around them because it is a hazard to traffic. You might have a car behind these bicyclists and a car behind that car doesn't see the bicyclist and crashes into the first car. That's not a good thing, and all of it can be avoided. Some of us work outside, professionally or for fun, gardening, that type of thing. So regardless of work, age, location, there are some general summer safety tips that doctors promote. Some recommended tips are using sunscreen, broad spectrum sunscreen to avoid sunburn, rashes, and blisters. As an adult, I realized my hair was thinning because the top of my head at the beginning of each summer season would get burned. I couldn't believe it. I was losing my hair. So now I either have to wear a hat or I have to put suntan lotion on my head. Kind of embarrassing because I still do have hair. It's just thin. Next, drink water and drinks with electrolytes regularly to avoid dehydration and heat stroke. Clothing that's worn should be light colored and lightweight to spot ticks and other insects and avoid trapping heat. Dark clothes absorb sunlight. And some hazards in the workplace only manifest themselves due to hot weather. So if someone's working in construction or they're working in direct sunlight, even if they're a lifeguard, they're working in direct sunlight for a prolonged period of time, it could lead to heat stress or heat stroke. Some fields that are more at risk for this are construction, mining, engineering. One of the things that you can get is an ice vest. It is a vest with pockets in it that you can put ice packs in. Camping is also a fun summer activity. Know the ability level of the people in your group and environment around you and plan accordingly. There might be some people or children who just don't have the experience who you're going to go camping with who are clueless on how to start a fire, who are clueless on how to cook food. Maybe they don't like to cook, and you might have to fill in the gap. Or they're just lazy. They don't want to look on the ground for rocks, and then they're sleeping. Their tent is over a big hard rock and they're sleeping on it. When you go camping, you pack a simple first aid kit to handle stings, sprains, cuts, bruises, slivers, and other injuries that could happen. You're definitely going to want to take a CPR first aid class and download a first aid app. I believe that the Red Cross has one. So you'll know what to do if help is delayed. You can even bring a little manual on how to treat various injuries. Sprains and falls are also common in camping. I went camping and it was a Jellystone Park, uneven concrete. I tripped, I fell, and I hit my forearm on an edge of concrete. Oh my goodness, did it hurt. I thought I broke it. But I knew sometimes pain needs to subside, and it subsided, and I was fine, and all I had was a bruise. A little bit of ice, I was fine. Share your travel plans and locations with family. What really bugs you about summer? Well, let's talk about mosquitoes and ticks. I've never had a tick. I've never seen a tick on any family member, but mosquitoes can ruin your summer fun. As we spend more time outdoors, there's a greater chance of being bitten by mosquitoes and ticks. And there's 176 known species of mosquitoes in the United States from coast to coast. Mostly they're active from April to September, but you have to be vigilant of black-legged ticks, more commonly known as deer ticks, if you live in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, North Central, and Northwest. Haha, we live in the Midwest, so we're good there. You should use an insect repellent containing DEET when you're outdoors. Make sure you follow the instructions on. If you're outside and it's buggy, particularly at dusk or dawn, definitely want to wear long sleeve clothing, long-legged clothing. It'll prevent flies and mosquitoes from biting you. Avoid underbrush and tall grass and woods. If you have pets that go outdoors, they do have flea and tick medicine. It's like a little treat. Used to be a little vial that you would have to put on their back, but now the ones that I get for my dog, they're little rectangular treats basically, and he has them once a month and doesn't get any bugs. Standing water is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Get rid of standing water sites like in flower pots, buckets, barrels, that type of thing. Summer heat can be dangerous for your pets. Dogs do not sweat except out of their paws. They pant. That's how they cool off. If you see your dog and it's super hot out, not a good time to take a dog for a 4-mile walk when it's 98 degrees. Animals can have heat stroke too, and it's a common problem for pets in warmer weather. Dogs with short noses or snouts, like boxers or bulldogs, are especially prone to heat stroke, along with overweight animals. And those with an extremely thick fur coat, any respiratory problems, they are prone to heat stroke because they can't get enough air in and out. So some signs are heavy panting, being unable to calm down, even when lying down, brick red gum color, fast pulse rate, and being unable to get up. So if you suspect your pet has heat stroke, take their temperature rectally. Gross, but you have to do it. And if the temperature is above 105, you have to cool the animal down. The easiest way to do this is by using the water hose. Stop cooling the animal when their temperature reaches 103 degrees. There's a new movie out called A Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks plays Otto, who is a widower. He's an older guy, and he thinks the world are idiots. He says, that idiot driver, this idiot driver, don't you know how to park? That type of thing. Which brings us into summer driving tips. Your air conditioning does have to work harder, and a lack of air conditioning on a hot day affects everyone. It's particularly dangerous for people who are in poor health. Vehicular heat stroke is a thing. It's when someone, a child or a dog, is left in a car in the summer. Do not leave children in your car. Do not leave pets and dogs in your car. If you see someone leaving a pet in the car, the best thing you can do is call 911. Have the police deal with it. Don't take it upon yourself to smash the window and save the pet, because now you're committing a crime. You're committing property damage. High summer temperatures also accelerate the rate at which rubber hoses and belts degrade. When you go for your oil changes, have them inspect the belts for bulges, blisters, cuts. It's best to replace them before they break than breaking down somewhere and having to replace them. You want to inspect your tires at least once a month, and before long road trips, look closely at the tread. Make sure it's at least 2/32 of an inch or greater on all tires. So stick a penny in it. If you can see the top of Abraham Lincoln's head, you need new tires. If you can't, or the top of the head is obscured, you have enough tread on them to remain safe. And if you have uneven wear, your tires need rotation. Check each tire's age. Sometimes tires degrade with age. Maybe they haven't been driven a lot. Maybe it's just a little old lady to and from the store type car, and the rubber can rot. Tires for electric vehicles are actually heavier, but they require the same maintenance. Low rolling resistance tires for conventional vehicles could also have lower tread life. It's not just about checking the pressure. You got to look at the treads. And if you find damage, bring it into the shop. To protect your loved ones, seatbelts. Wear seatbelts. When you back out, look with your head. Turn your head. When I had surgery on my neck, they told me I couldn't drive for a couple days. And I said, why not? Well, you can't turn your head left and right. And my answer to the doctors were, but nobody else does. And that was my sarcastic sense of humor, but I didn't drive for a few days. Do not just rely on that backup camera. The backup camera might not have a wide enough berth for you to see a car barreling down the parking lot because people don't know how to drive. I sound like Otto in the movie. Sometimes when children play, particularly in the driveway, they're oblivious. Sometimes adults are oblivious too. They don't know. They're riding their bike, their scooter, they're running, and they don't even see the car backing out. So you have to be super, super cognizant of where your blind zones are. Look for children. When you walk to the car, look for children on your block before you even get in. That way you know that the neighbor 2 houses down is riding his bike. My intent is not to scare anyone. Go out, have a wonderful summer. My intent was just to make everyone aware of potential dangers so that they can mitigate them or respond to them. Stay tuned for Mitchell Dicker from Celebration Authority, Clowning Around Entertainment, for tips on summer picnics, company picnics, rides, and all sorts of fun activities. Stay tuned. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.